Ah, hello, everybody. Welcome back. I still don't have my full voice back, but it's so beautiful to be here with you all for Age of Awæcnian and beautiful Flea. I'm going to hand it over to you. How are you feeling?
Oh, it is very interesting seeing everybody coming up sick because I did have this a couple of weeks ago, as we discussed this morning, and having that feeling and going, actually, I don't feel unwell. It's just this annoyingness that is clinging on. And I feel like for a lot of people that is the theme of this month. It's like those annoying little things that are just hanging on. And it's like, how do we let them go? How do we let go these itty bitty little problems that are right there? Just we know they're there. It could be not eating correctly, not having time to exercise, not having enough fun, um, you know, just not standing up for ourselves and saying what it is we need to say and holding our ground and all of these things that they're just tiny nuances, but it's enough to throw our center of balance out of whack completely. And that there, I feel, is this lovely energetic shift where we're noticing it more now in our bodies. And people are like, I feel sick. Does anybody know what this is? Is there something going around? Yeah, it's called an awakening. It's this grand awareness and collective energy that is saying we've had enough and we want better. We want more. Our bodies want more. The earth wants more. How do we do that?
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting. You made me think of another podcast where I was listening to this amazing woman who was from an Alaskan tribe, and a lot of their awakening with their elders and their wisdom keepers actually came through illness. And it was the body processing whatever things it needed to in order to awaken or to go deeper into the body to shed. And this particular tribe or group of people, they didn't have plant medicine. They had winter for most of their days. So a lot of the times they were kept in, and when they were out in nature, so people in their tribe would be sick for a very long time, but that was considered, I suppose, a beautiful gift in a way. So I know we always like to flip the switch and go, well, what's the gift from this? So what if all of these viruses and these sicknesses, the gifts of being able to shed those pieces so that we can become stronger, more resilient, to notice our bodies? Yeah.
Yeah. I like the way that you put that as what is the gift in this sickness? And sometimes it's just to stop that time that our body needs to rest. It's like, I don't want to do the things I'm doing. Are you actually listening to what you're saying? Because if you're saying, I don't want to go, I don't want to do, and you're still going and you're doing, at some point your body's going to say, okay, well, let's answer this prayer and we'll just make you sick so you don't have to do it anymore. It's like that seems to be the only opportunity people have these days to take time for themselves. It's like, well, I've got to chuck a sickie. And if you're not
Yeah.
a person that chucks a sickie, then you're living in this cycle of, okay, well, I need to be sick to take a day off.
Yeah.
And that's a prayer. Like your body is asking for that. And spirituality was just defined for me quite nicely that it's not an easy journey. Like a lot of people go, oh, you're spiritual, it's woo woo, and we're off with the fairies and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, kind of. But to get to that place of that understanding and that awareness, you actually have to grovel in the shit. You actually have to be down in the darkness for any of that awareness to even be possible in the first place. So for anyone
Yeah.
that's thinking that this journey is all light and love, I'm sorry, no, not really. There it is in there,
Look,
and the
yeah.
beauty of it comes with that knowledge, but you still have to go through it to fully understand and comprehend, as I'm sure our beautiful guest knows
Oh,
and can
totally.
understand and expand a lot with us.
Totally. And beautiful Marissa, she is so much fun and so wise. And she is a transformational consultant. She's a hypnotherapist, a breathwork facilitator, sound healer. She's also an author, or she's about to be an author. She's also a global platform speaker. So she is someone that has graced many stages, knows what it's like to be in those tough shit moments. And I just love her humor in being able to, yeah, process it with lightness. And but she also gets things done, you know. She's a go-getter like us as well. And I really loved getting to know Marissa this year. And, you know, I met her through another beautiful space where we were both speaking with the Women Thrive Summit. And I was like, oh, cool, another Aussie. And I just was like, oh my God, who is this woman? She's so like real and authentic and so much fun, and we're both unwell together, but we're here, we're showing up. So it's so wonderful to have Marissa on with us today.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
welcome.
Thank you. And you're right. Like sometimes your body will manifest ways of making you rest. And I was listening while you ladies were talking, and I was like, it is quite often that like expansion and cracking open when you've gone through something, when you have just gone through the trenches and you've gone through an experience, and you've really like had to push yourself through like a really big growth and awakening process. Yeah, it's quite often that last little bit of that purge of those last few things that are coming through. And yeah, it was interesting hearing that, because I think, for me, I'd like was beating myself up. I was like, oh, I need to be working more, like things aren't happening and I need to make things happen. And I was so switched in my energy and working from the wrong place. And then, now my body's like, you just need to rest. And it's really hard for people that don't often get sick or to rest, like sometimes even no matter how awakened you are, you still get caught back up in that old paradigm and old way of thinking, right? Where you have to be hustling, you have to be working hard. And that for me is always when I'm out of balance and everything in my life goes out of balance, instead of just being in the ease and the flow. So it's been another gentle reminder to just step back and to just flow a little bit more and rest more.
I love that. And that energy of that go, 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 that masculine energy, that is very good. But especially for females, like tempering it with that release as well is really important, because our cycles will impact that masculine energy and it'll start to create that imbalance within us anyway. So
Yeah.
that was like really cool that you mentioned that go, go, go attitude, and how we really do need to stop and pay attention to it. And I believe that the same would be for men. What do you two think on that?
Yeah, I think with this piece on like our flow, and you mentioned cycles, Flea. I know that like in the work I've done, and I just finished my cycle, so I was in like this big shedding, and I was noticing other pains that I normally hadn't noticed before, and then my throat issues were coming up, and then even just that oracle wisdom coming online to rest. And I think you also called it. You're like, just be ready, be prepared. And then there was like, boom, all of these other pieces that kind of started channeling through, where I was like, okay, why am I feeling this? Why am I seeing this? What else is there to shed? And I think men, like, with our cycles as women, we do work with the moon and the ebbs and flows of nature and Mother Earth. But men are like the sun, 24 hours, they can regenerate. And for us, it's like, we take so much longer while they're just going boom, boom, and we just like take our time. So I
Yeah.
think it's really beautiful to notice the differences in that light, in that energy, in the dualities of that, the sun and the moon, and the masculine and the femme. What are your thoughts on that, Marissa, in your experience?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's interesting you said that about the cycle, because normally I do work in with my cycle and that week is very quiet and I don't do much and I very much nurture myself. But the last 2 months I haven't been able to, just with work and travel and whatnot.
Mm,
And I always notice when I don't give myself that time during my cycle to really give myself the chance to rejuvenate, yeah, really feel it. And it's not the first time this year that this has happened. Um, and it's that balance, right? Because it's that balance between having to still get things done and time limits and working on other people's schedules as well as your own, and being able to find that time to like honor yourself during the process when you need to as well. and nurture yourself as much as possible. So it's, yeah, really important. And I'm always reminded every month when I have not worked in with my cycle and I've not honored myself and given myself that rest, because something will find a way of manifesting for me to have to rest.
Mm, there's a few things that pop up with that. Like, one, obviously the signs and the symptoms. Like you said, I usually work with my cycle, and the last 2 months I haven't, and I'm not usually sick, and yet here I am. And right before we popped on, I went, "Oh, it's to do with the nose. It's right under your nose." It's like
Yeah.
I'm sick because I'm not following the things that I usually do, like that I know that are in my face all the time. Like, I'm not doing this. I know this, and it's right
Yeah.
under my nose. And
Yeah.
I love the body, the way the body, shares these messages, and especially like our emotions, like when we're feeling, it's like, where is that feeling? And for a lot of
Mm.
us, like, some of us, we can physically see it, and other times it's like, oh, I'm feeling funny in my tummy. What could that be? It's like, that lack of creativity. It could be that lack of passion and desire, that, just feeling bombarded and not being able to do the things that you want to do. So if you're feeling
Mm.
like disrupted in the stomach and all of those digestive issues, where is your safety and your sense of like passion gone? Like, they're the
Yeah.
issues that you need to sort of look at, especially with this purging energy where it's going to be more noticeable because it's unusual sicknesses. So people are like, where is this coming from? Yeah, the weather's changed, but it's actually been kind of nice.
Mm.
These seasons, haven't been enough to go, okay, we're right in flu season now.
Mm.
So like these sicknesses are unusual in that essence. And everybody that I've heard, sharing their stories on social media is talking about, oh, what is this thing that's going around? If
Mm.
everybody's thinking the same thing, we have to actually stop and take notice. Everyone's getting sick. Why? What aren't we as a collective doing to actually address those problems? Like you said, other people's schedules, other people's things coming in and interrupting my flow. How can we
Yeah.
do it another way? Like, we're given this opportunity to rest and to sit with, okay, well, if I'm not speaking my truth, if I'm, like literally not following the things that I know is best for me, that's right under my nose, or,
Nose,
not following my desires,
nose.
yeah, you know, how do how can we sit with this more and ask those questions of what is the other way? Because we were talking this morning about this energy of the masculine coming down to meet the feminine, and it's like there is a meeting point where there is another way. It doesn't have to be
Mm.
one or the other, it can be both. So, yeah, I don't know, what would be some questions that you would both ask yourself, like, to go through that? Like, what am I feeling with this, and how can I get to the bottom of it?
Bless you, Marissa.
We blow it all away. We say no more.
Yeah, interesting questions to sit with. I'm in this really contemplative state, I know I chat with Flea, I chat with Marissa a lot as well, about what's going on. And it's beautiful to have the mirrors and other people as well to just bounce off. And I think if more of us had conversations like this in our own lives, with our family members, with our, children, partners. And I'm sure, Marissa, you have these types of conversations with your clients too, like
Mm.
having that mirror effect to go deeper and to contemplate, well, what is that? How can I shift that in my own life? And some of it's time, like, for us, we're both unwell, and rest is the big message, and it's time. But what is it for you, Marissa, that, with these moments that come up in life?
Yeah, I think for
Yeah.
me, I kind of feel like I'd had the rumblings, I guess, of some things needing to shift and change. And I kind of maybe had like emued them, I just put my head in the sand. It was like I
Mm,
knew that I needed to maybe deal with some things, but it was like too big to deal with. I just didn't have the energy, the capacity, the space holding for it. Just kind of ran away a little bit. And um, yeah, and I think it's just that remembrance that pulling the band-aid off and dealing with things is always easier than just avoiding it and
mm,
putting your head in the sand. Um, so I think for me, Yeah, and I just had been feeling like a lot had been out of balance for a little while, um, in like many areas of my life and business. So I knew that I needed to kind of start to clean up my energetic boundaries around a few things and just clean up a few things, and I'd been avoiding it, I guess. Um, so yeah, I think for me it's just that it's making myself have that time now to stop and pause and actually deal with stuff, and get my head out of the sand and just start dealing with things. Um, and it's weird because it's like, yeah, this I very rarely get sick, and then this sickness, it's like it's just come on so quickly as well. Like I literally woke up and I was like, yesterday I just thought I was like, oh, a bit sinusy because it was dusty or something, and then I wake up today and I was like, oh no, that's it, I'm sick.
Yeah. But you've
And
also
then
gone through a big process. Like you went away and did like a big transformational process with your breathwork training. So there's probably been a lot in your journey just recently that is now like coming to the surface. And so,
yeah,
yeah, I'd love for you to. I know we had you on our summit, and before you jumped on, like, I feel like I want to change the whole thing. But then you were on, and then you were like, boom, boom, boom. And it's just that experience. But like, I suppose that you choosing to go and do this work on yourself, like what, I suppose, in your recent experience, like what transformations have you gone through that's made you reflect and look at all these things, like if you want to dive a bit deeper into that.
yeah. So before the last event, I was traveling, and I sat down in ceremony and just cracked myself open on a whole other layer, because I think it had come off the back of like this book has been such a huge process. It's really, really, really challenged me and cracked me open. And a lot of beliefs that I felt like I had dealt with, like imposter syndrome, the inner critic, like a lot of things that I felt like I had mastered and was good about recalibrating back from pretty quickly, which is niggling under the surface a lot.
Mm,
This book has been a really big personal process, pouring, your heart, your soul, your energy into it. And I feel like I just went into the writing cocoon cave, like nothing else existed for like, God, I don't know, like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like while I was writing this book. So then I just felt like everything behind me was like starting to compound and build up, and I was feeling overwhelmed because I wasn't getting to things that I needed to get to. And then I felt like everything just kinked off, like my creativity, my flow, my abundance, everything just like kinked, and I was like, what is going on? Like, I understand this process has brought some stuff up, obviously. Um, and I probably had let my daily routine slip, which may have helped to clear through a few
mm,
things, but I also felt like I needed something deeper to really like dive in there to really kind of like peel back the layers. So sitting in ceremony was good. I got a few insights with that. Yeah, and then went out to the mountains and then did the breath work, and then I was out in the mountains again last weekend. Um, and that was beautiful again as well. But yeah, it's just, I think going through that cracking open experience
mm,
and going through that up leveling, and again, it's just that integration time in between. Like I feel like I need to get better about the integration in between. And even my business, so much happened so quickly last year, and the first quarter of this year was so top heavy that I didn't have proper integration time in between, that I felt like I'd left myself behind. And then I'm like scrambling to catch up to where my business is, to where my life is, to where everything is. And it was literally, I felt like those cartoons where you see like the Roadrunner run, and then he's like way up there, but he's like shadow and his dust is still back there. And it was like, I was like so separated from everything. So I think having like that
Mm.
integration time in between to help that up leveling is huge and fundamental. And I don't think people talk about that enough, that you need to like, people talk about like being the energetic match and, space holding capacity. And when you
mm,
start having more, you have to hold more space and hold more. But no one talks about that integration time in between to get to that capacity to hold more, because it's all well and good to say, okay, well, you've got all of these things going on. Now you just need to hold space at a bigger level, or, hold a bigger capacity for more things to come in. But how do you do that when you're still back there? You know what I mean? So it's like you have to kind of integrate and move through as everything is moving through. And it's really crucial, which I've, sometimes you have to experience things to realize that when it happens again, it's kind of like you have to go forward to like drop back to go even for like higher than where you were before. So I kind of feel like that's where I'm in now, like that slingshot phase where it's like I went up and then I've come back down, and then I'm going to like rebuild a few things to go even higher next time. But next time I will be able to move with the slingshot instead of being left behind.
I actually love the language that you use. I'm a lover of language and what it, like the deeper meanings that it contains, and how you said that. I feel like, I just had to put my head in the sand and forget about it all, like that submersion. If you actually think about the congestion on the head, which is what
Yes.
you're actually suffering with now, it's like I just had to put my head in the sand and forget about it. And each little grain of sand being every little one of those problems that have impacted that surrounding and that
Yep.
pressure are those little bits of sand. So, like, being able to move them out of the way, like you said, with the practices that are good for you. It's like,
Yep.
why do we always abandon ourselves and the things that make us feel good, especially when we're feeling down? This
Yep.
is a huge, like, societal issue that so many people do. Like, I've spoken with multiple people this week. It's like, oh, yeah, well, when I go and do this, I feel so good and I feel great in myself. It's like, well, why do you stop? Why do we
Mm.
allow that to be the first thing we sacrifice when it comes to our general well-being? Like, that should be it. If your routine is your morning, then nothing else should come before that. It should be scheduled in before work.
Yeah.
And yeah, that abandonment thing, that coming back to ourselves, like, why do we keep doing that? I know I do it as well. It's like, I want to eat healthier, but yet, I've got to feed a house full of boys that all like carbohydrate type foods and burgers and chips and pizzas. And it's like, that does not suit my body. It does not make
Mm.
me feel good. Yet, like, my health, I know for me to stay in my well being and to not get sick, those foods are really important. And it's like, why in this, like, it almost feels like in giving love unconditionally, you give away the parts of yourself that make you feel whole.
Mm. I think the abandonment thing is a big one as well. I think so many people suffer from that and feel that. And, when you think about abandonment wounds, most people think, oh, it's like when relationships end or when a parent left or whatever, right? But it's like, where are you also abandoning yourself? Like, where are you not holding space and showing up for you? Like, where are you abandoning your wants and needs in life? And you're right. Like,
Mm,
people do give unconditionally, and you know that you need to fill your own self-love cup first, like put your own face mask on first. But it is so easy, I think, to get caught up in like the demands of life. And it is that constant recalibration. I guess this is where it's called the work, right? Like, because it is a
mm,
continual process. It does not stop and it doesn't end. It doesn't always need to be hard, but it is one
mm,
of those things you need to constantly recalibrate yourself back with all the time.
Yeah,
mm. We
so
need to start
powerful.
the me first movement.
Yes.
Oh my god, I love
And it's like
that.
me first, but it's sacred selfishness. And I love this term of like, there is in this world of coming into circle, coming back to self, knowing that there is a sacred part of us that requires it, you know? And we don't always have to go into ceremony or into circles or into these beautiful healing spaces, which are beautiful and they remind us. But it's like, how can we make every day sacred? How can we make every day in
Mm,
our routines, our rituals? Yes, there are some things that are just everyday things, but how can we get up and bring that gratitude in or have that morning coffee or tea and just have that moment of deep breaths? Because you forget,
mm,
we all forget, and we spoke about that this morning. And if we don't listen, our body forces us to. And so,
mm,
like, even in the work of going into schools, like, I haven't been able to go into schools because I can't use my voice. And I'm not going to be yelling. And like these schools I'm choosing to go in are tough freaking schools. And there's a part of me that still is like, okay, I'm showing up for a reason. I keep being called here. But then there's a part that also my heart breaks. My voice is breaking because I can't, you know, um, that unconditional love piece where it's like, yes, there's that leader in me that wants to show them that there are people that care, but there's also like the self preservation where I can't keep yelling at kids because they don't know what respect is, and they don't know how to listen because they haven't been shown, or kids running away on an oval because they didn't get the ball that I took away from them. It's that was my day Friday. And then I lost my voice because part of me is like, I want to help and I want to be of service, but this is not the
You can't
way.
express your heart.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's like,
Mm.
this is not the way.
So therefore, the voice gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my body's like, okay, you can't go back in then if you're going to be like, you can't be like this in those spaces because it's going to,
Mm.
And so, yeah, I've rested the last few days, I think from Tuesday to what day is Thursday, last 2 days. And yesterday, this was way worse. And yeah, I think these pieces that we're sharing today are very, very important. And these old habits, like we fall back into old habits, our old parts of ourself that we are continuing to shed because we know we all three of us and the people that are listening into this probably like, yeah, I know what's good for me, and then I forget not to
Mm.
do them. So like this is the reminder, like these things here.
And I feel like when you're on the verge of a really big up level, it's like it's always darkest before the dawn, right? Like you always go through that really big low and dip just before you're about to have like a massive, huge explosion and expansion. And it's like, I feel like part of it is when you're like about to go through a massive shedding, a massive up leveling, it's like those old little paradigms and programs are just like trying to like hook in that last little time.
Mm.
It's like, how much do you want this? How strong really are you to move on from this? And it's like,
Have you really
that's when
learned?
yeah. And it's like, that's when you have to dig in and really use your inner strength when you don't have any to like go, no, you know what? F you. I am going to move out of this. I am going to kick you out of the way and get on with this. But it's, yeah, I feel like sometimes it's also like, just like, yeah, that last little bit of a shifting and up leveling as well.
Mm. Yeah. It's amazing. Like this morning was the first day I've just started an exercise routine with another friend, another sister to support each other. And, it's been 2 days. And then today it was like, oh, I forgot. I've got an interview at that time. I'm not going to be able to meet at that time. And then because I'd already gotten dressed, I was like, oh, now I have to get dressed again to go and exercise. And then I'll have to get dressed again to do the other meetings. And I'm like, that seems like a really huge effort. And I grappled with it. I'm like, okay, well, I've done 2 days. I can take a rest day. And it was that conscious choice. It's like, no, actually, I'll go do it now. If I do it now,
Yeah.
at least I won't have an excuse later. I won't have to tell myself I'm making an excuse later. And it did just give me more energy and I was more productive. Whereas if I'd avoided it, I would have stayed cold because I didn't exercise. I probably would have wanted to binge watch television instead of doing any of the work I did. And that would have created the cycle, which would have then made me sick. And it's as simple as that. It's like, how can I do it? Like, maybe I can't go get changed to exercise. Well, what can I do in my clothes? What can I do without having to get changed and find something else to wear? And like these type of these options are readily available for us. I can't meditate. Can I do a moving meditation? Can I, can I do something else instead? Replace it with something that is just mindful.
And this is showing up for yourself and choosing to show up for
Mm.
yourself. And all three of us are here showing up for ourselves as we are, right?
We are often our own worst enemies as well, right?
Yeah,
It
totally.
is easier, convenience. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, if I don't do it now, I can do it next week. We can delay, but then those delays cost us, don't they? It's like, okay, well, if I don't do it today and I delay it for another 2 weeks, well, what is that then going to impact? What else am I going to miss out because I didn't do it then? That's a
Yeah.
huge reality, like eye opener for me. It's like, okay, yeah, if I don't pick me, if I don't choose my health first, then I'm not going to have health to pick later on. I'm going to struggle. I'm going to have things that are like far worse, the diabetes, we think of Alzheimer's and all the stuff that is now connected to just how poor our diet is and how much food is contaminated with sugars and toxins. It's like, well, I have to pick somewhere. And why not pick the easiest thing, the things we can control, which is our physicality? We can breathe anywhere. We can take time, even if it's just for 5 seconds, to stop and go, I'm going to take 5 breaths right now and center myself and ground myself and make myself feel good because I didn't get my morning meditation. And then I'll go off. Like 5 seconds is nothing. We spend 5 seconds worrying about, oh, I didn't do this and I didn't do that and I've got to pick this up and that. And it's like, okay, well, I get to create my list, and that can give me 5 seconds to, take my time and breathe and center myself and get calm. There's always another way.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's like, pick the level of battle, right? It's like, would you rather have something not done off your to-do list, but then know that you're investing in your health, which will pay for, your health is a form of your wealth, right? It's gonna pay you dividends over the long run. And I think it's that priority shifting as well. So often we get so caught up in like expectations and having to feel like we're doing things or achieving or whatever, and it's like, just the parameters and boundaries are so way off on like what's really important, like, and it's always your health, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, above everything else.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
And this piece about, wealth, what wealth looks like, what abundance looks like, can come in many forms. Like you said, health, well-being, it can be financial, it can be people, it can be experiences. And I think,
Mm,
a lot of us underestimate um, what that wealth consciousness can look like, and being clear also to the universe. Well, what is it we are wanting? If we're wanting all of it,
mm,
how does that look? And I know Lee is really great with clarity, and my husband Sean as well, because I'm like, I want it all. But how? How do you want that to look like? Because $10 is
Yeah.
still more abundant than what I was yesterday, and I think these pieces
mm,
around clarity and allowing ourselves to sit with the rest, to bring in the clarity for our vessels, to think clearly and to be mindful and intentional, is another big part of my own
mm,
lessons and being with this, because I find on a normal day when I'm doing lots of things, I can forget stuff. But even when I'm sick, I'm like, oh shit, where did I put that thing? Oh, this isn't working. Where's my phone gone? Even
mm.
more, I'm like, I lose my head, and being off with my head has been a theme in another thing. But I'm like, today, I'm like, I've lost my head. I don't know what's going on. And that clarity in the rest, I think, is really important. And I know in the clarity, in the dreaming, in calling in what you want for yourself, I think something we all are really exceptional at doing. So I want to like take it down this way, because we've been talking about the body and all these things. And I know, Marissa, you have very similar dreams to what Flea and I have as well. So what is the clarity and the dreams that you're calling in? You've got this beautiful book that's sharing your story. You've got this amazing business that you're clarifying and honing in on. You've got these beautiful skills. You've got these big dreams. Like, what is it you're, once we shed all these things, because you're going to bring it in, it's happening. It's already here. Like, what is it that you're calling in? What is it that you're dreaming of for you and your future?
Well, I'm actually going to send myself away for a couple of days next week and give myself a little life and business strategy session, because I feel like I need to redefine my parameters, because I achieved so much so quickly of what I thought I wanted, which is still what I want, but I need to get clearer and cleaner around it, in terms of I want to, I want to be able to travel for work, which I did at this year and I will do more of. But then it's like, but now I want to travel comfortably and protect my health while I'm traveling and stay in nicer places and eat better quality
Mm,
food. And so it's getting really clear around those parameters. And like even the speaking events, it's like, okay, like now I'm clear on what I want out of the speaking events. And so it's just, I've had a taste of what I want, but now it's just getting really clear on exactly what it's going to be adding to my
Mm.
life and how I can just up level things a little bit more, I think, because it's like I've actually realized that it's actually really easy to achieve things. Like everything I wanted to achieve, I've achieved, and it was quite easy. And I feel like I
Mm.
almost am a bit blasé about some stuff now because I'm like, oh, well, I want this. And then it's like, but then I have 3 of it, which is like amazing, so amazing. And I'm so incredibly grateful and appreciative. But then it's like, okay, but then it's like, it's not bringing in, there's still an area that's lacking in that. You know what I mean? So it's, just bringing a little bit more of that soul essence and depth to everything I'm doing, and just making sure that there's like that really clear alignment in everything so that it's like feeding and reciprocal
Mm.
in my life, because I also feel like I depleted myself throughout this process of achieving things which were quite easy to achieve, but then the energetic depletion is quite high. So just cleaning up the boundaries around that a little bit, I think. So I'm excited
Mm.
to see where things are going to look at the end of next week when I have my strategy session and I take myself out to the bush again. And then just like clarify things. I feel like I've been out in nature so much this year, which has been really amazing. It's definitely been like important for me, part of my process. And that always comes up for me whenever I sit in like meditation or ceremony. It's like always being out in nature and grounding and healing through nature. So, um, yeah, so I've definitely listened to
Mm.
that. So yeah, I think for me, it's just cleaning up the boundaries a little bit, up leveling in all areas, not just like I just felt things were a little bit out of alignment with a few things. So it's just bringing everything back into clean energetic alignment, cleaner boundaries, cleaner standards. And now I've realized, yes, it's not that hard to get your wish list, but I need to be clearer about my wish list. It's like going to Santa and being like, Santa, I want a car, but then he delivers you a Matchbox car, and you're like, no, I wanted like a real car I could drive. So it's like just getting clearer and stuff like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I had that exact same clarity. It's like I remember as a kid going, I want to experience all of life. And now, like sitting back, going through like some of that awareness process is like, oh, I actually got it. Actually, no, I don't want all of life. I just want all of the good bits of life.
Yeah.
But let's be
Yep.
specific about this. And we did the same thing, like even with the summits, like working out how much energy that actually takes out of our body and like making sure that, you know, when we do these things, are you actually aware of how much recovery time you're going to need, how much prep time you're going to need?
Absolutely.
Like whether or not you are actually like charging that value as well. Like so many people like don't understand like the energetic exchange with money and that
Mm,
lack. It's like, well, if we're not actually sharing how that energy is being transferred, it's like, okay, it takes 4 to 6 months to
mm,
plan one of these events. Now, if I was to charge a weekly amount, I there's no way I could make that in a summit. So, like
yeah.
for that, it's like being able to then say, well, where can that funnel? So, what's the other way? Because that's not going to work. That's a lot of energy for no financial gain, but there's so much
Mm,
value that's given. So the abundance in the connections, in the information, in the resources is phenomenal.
yeah.
Are we using it effectively? And can we call in that other way and be more intentional with it? So, like you said, you Marissa, that I know what I want to do with these speaker spots now and how to drive them. Like so much of that is just that learning curve. It's like, okay, I've done one, but if imagine if we could sit there and actually think to ourselves, like, intentionally, what do I truly want and map it out?
Mm,
How much easier it would be to not have to then go through all of these trial runs where it's like, oh, would have been better to waste, 6 months to 2 years building a business. Maybe if I'd just been open to collaborating in the beginning, I wouldn't have had to have wasted so much time. Or perhaps if I was looking at things with a clearer lens, like this is where I want to go, and then backwards map exactly what those stages are, there's
mm.
less chance for that interruption to come in. And we see this very much in our romantic relationships. Like how many times it's, I just want to be loved for me. Do you know who you are?
Oh my God,
How can you
yeah,
be loved for you if you're not aware of who you are in the beginning?
yeah.
I watched the beautiful Love is Blind show on Netflix, and it was like watching them through enclosed rooms, so they don't get to see one another, so the physicality's taken out. It's like, "Oh, brilliant, this should be really good." And they get some deep insight, but as you're watching as a viewer, you're still watching where they're lying to themselves. It's like you don't even know that question.
Mm.
You're asking these questions of another person, yet you don't have the answer inside, because what you're seeking is actually in that other person. You don't know, so you're seeking it in another. And the more intentional we get about, like, what is it I am actually seeking? Who am I? And what does that love look like to me? It's pretty much how we act and behave anyway. It's like, oh yeah,
So
I give
true.
love this way, but parts of me will, maybe keep a little bit here because certain people don't like that and certain people don't like this. And before you know it, you've completely lost yourself in a relationship because I might be overly affectionate and you might not like touching. Oh, who
Mm.
who sacrifices what? So that intentionality comes back to, do you actually know yourself? We
Mm.
can't ask anything of anybody else until we know that of ourselves.
And how comfortable are you facing all parts of yourself as well?
Mm,
Freedom comes from being able to darkness of your soul, right? But it's uncomfortable. It's not comfortable. It's
mm,
challenging. It feels yucky sometimes to face these parts within yourself. But it's like the more you can own all parts of yourself, the less external validation or whole feeling you're seeking because you are more comfortable with meeting your own needs. And I think, yeah, it's that codependency. It's that people are mirrors and you tend to seek out what you're lacking in yourself. But when you've faced all parts of yourself, there's nothing that anyone can do or say or give you that can even come close to how hard it is to go within, truly go within, really deeply within, not just the surface layer of like, I think that maybe I could give myself more self-love. It's like, no, it's like, where are you not loving yourself? Where are you not showing up for yourself? Like, why? Like, really dig
what
deep
is it?
into that. And then I think that's when your relationships start to transform and all of your related in
Mm,
life because all of a sudden you're less dependent on people's judgments or opinions or criticism or whatever because it's like that doesn't even come close to how hard we are on ourselves.
mm.
Exactly right. It's
And
interesting,
imagine
like,
those conversations too, being
yeah,
being able to be that, like, I know myself, I know this is the way I love. Can you meet me there? How much,
yeah,
like, unavoided negative relationships or even dates, it's like, okay, I know who I am. I accept this part of me. Like, if we can accept the worst parts about ourselves and be open and upfront about that from the get-go, well, you can't be rejected by the right people anyway, because the right people will love that part about you as well.
yeah,
But
yeah,
if we hide it,
and I
how are they
feel
meant to know that that's part of you?
Yeah.
so true, and I feel like even when you've been in relationship for a long time, like, I think, Sean and I have been together for 18 years, married for 14, but we've known each other for 28, since we were kids. We are so different people. And, even when more parts of myself unveil and I share like some of the fantastical, maybe woo woo crazy things that I know within me, I know he loves and accepts that, but there's still a part that doesn't because it's like reminding we still live in a 3D world. I know that is you, but still we're here, and
Yeah.
just meeting also
Mm,
those parts of others as well where they're at, I think is really been interesting, even going through all of the self work that I've done in this time and reflecting on my journey and looking at the journeys of other people around me. It's like, okay, I can see that. I can stand my ground here, but I'm still learning to understand them. And even like talking to Flea, she's like, how about you reframe it this way? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a really good way to question things if we went down this rabbit hole of what that would look like in this world of what we're arguing out that hasn't even existed yet. And these worries, these concerns that do evolve in relationships, whether it's with yourself or with others, a lot of them, haven't even happened yet. because we're in that worry state. So it's like,
Yeah.
come back to the present, come back to the present, come back to the present, right?
Mm.
And I think as well, it's like, that saying, if you can't handle me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. And it's like, well, if you can't love yourself at your worst, how can anybody else
Yeah.
love you at your worst either? You know what I mean? It's like you also have to be very comfortable with your best and worst parts of yourself, which I think that's the hard part, right? Loving yourself through the darkness, through the hard parts, through looking at the mirror and realizing you are where you are in life because of you.
Mm. That's why I love our acceptance pillar. So that's like the third level of spiritual awakening when we're going through like the master pillars. And that acceptance is to accept someone, you don't have to agree with them. You don't
Mm,
actually, so, you can disagree, but still accept the person at their worst. Or, like if you're completely woo woo, okay, well, yeah, I may not get you, I may not agree with you, but I love and accept what you do, does not actually reject like you as a person. It doesn't reject what you're about. It's just that different level of understanding. And that
yeah,
acceptance of like, okay, yeah, can we build this together? You may not get me, but this is who I am. So, if you're curious about me and you want to continue to grow with me, well, maybe you can learn. And that there
yeah,
gives choice because it's not the rejection of, oh, well, you have to stop being woo woo. It's actually, no, this is me. I do love all of me. And what I get, I believe, guides me in a really strong way. And that acceptance of me in that means that you're either going to be willing to learn, or when it comes to these agreements, we just mutually agree that we're not going to agree. It's not then saying, no, you're
mm,
wrong. It's like, okay, well, we've got to work at that different level. We've got to find another option. And acceptance is that it's that like next level of, okay, I'm aware of my shadows. I've acknowledged the conditioning and the social needs of everyone around me and how it's all interplayed in my belief patterns. Now I'm coming into this awareness that to be accepted, I have to accept me. And if I'm rejecting me in any way, shape, or form, then everybody else is as well. There's no other
yes,
way
and I
to
think
it.
you
It's
can,
just this development.
yeah, and you can meet people where they are without lowering to where they are as well. Like you can meet them and accept them where they are, but you don't have to lower yourself, your standards, your ideas, your identity to be at that same level that they are.
Yeah. Mm, this is deep.
It is deep. It is
Diving
deep.
deep into self acceptance and how
Oh,
we get past all these rappy little under the
oh
nose, stuck in the
gosh.
mud, frog in the throat issues that keep us stressed and behind.
But it
Yeah.
happens to everyone, and it's like people have this preconceived idea of somebody based on this idea that they've made in their head, right? Or they based on a snapshot of
Mm,
things they see online or whatever, right? Conversations they've had. And people always form an opinion based on their belief system and their perspective on things, right? But everyone's just a real person going through a real journey. And I think that I have a real love, mainly hate relationship with social media. And I feel like for a while there, like a lot of people, just became quite vacuumous. And it was like everyone was portraying and presenting this certain thing online, but behind the scenes, it was like nothing like that at all. And I think there's something really beautiful about bringing like realness and raw and vulnerability back into things and just being like, you know what? Fucking no one has their shit figured out. Everyone is still going through things. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter if you're starting out a business. It doesn't matter if you're successful. You will always have things that you're working through and
mm,
up leveling through. Always.
So true. Interestingly, like we spoke about social media this morning too. Like we had beautiful Christiana on, and she's like, I'm almost have been at the month mark of not being on Facebook or Instagram. She's like, I actually don't know if I want to go back, but I know I have to, but I don't want to. And it's like exactly what you're saying. It's like it is part of visibility and showing up and reaching different people. But then it's like, how do you find those rare gems, those authentic, raw people that you feel their
Mm,
authenticity and their integrity. And people are starting to feel the bullshitters. Like, you can
mm,
see it. You can see it. And like, I know in the spams and messenger, and I'm like, the part of me last year when I was first getting into it, I was like, maybe I can turn them, maybe I can get to know them. And then I'm like, nah, delete, delete, delete. I'm like, you
Yes.
don't care. You don't care.
If I
You
get
know?
another person me to just engage in conversation polite about it, but now I just don't even respond. I just delete because I'm like, this is so inconsiderate and disrespectful of people's time. Like, I don't want to have a new friend online who's
mm.
only going to try and sell me stuff after like a week of continual conversation. I don't have time for that in my life.
I learned the hard way
Yeah.
with that too. It's like, oh, you have to build your followers, so I'll just accept everyone. No, don't, because so many of those spam tag things of 97 people pop up, and once you get one, then you have a team of them that are constantly tagging you, and you have to go through and delete, block, untag. It took me, I think I was at it for about a month and a half, just because I
Oh
decided to
God.
try and build my network, and I was like, no, 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 no. Now it's like, look at their posts. Are they a real person? Are they,
Mm.
are they going to be one of those digital online marketers that are going to sell me something? Okay, I can accept some of them, but I'm going to look at what they do first. So now it's this huge like scanning process of, oh, okay, now I've got to judge everyone before I even can get to know them, because you have to try and protect yourself from this online craze. And it's like, no, no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it's time to just bring some integrity back and some real lifeness into online lifeness, you know? It's like it's
Yeah.
still the same. Online life is still the same as real life. We've still got people on the other end of this. Like imagine I just think imagine if you had a conversation, like imagine you just walked up to someone randomly, right? And you were like sent this like massively long like paragraph and you just stood there in front of them and were like, "Hi, would you like to grow your clients by 20 times blah blah blah." You'd be like, who are you? Like it's like those people in the shopping centers that you like walk to the other side to avoid, right? It's like if this was real life, you wouldn't do it.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true.
Yep. Uh,
Oh my gosh. And this piece about like, I think humanity, whether it's online or in person, craving real people, craving
mm,
connection, and it's that core, I know with Awæcnian Academy, it's that connective creativity, and it's like, how do we connect? Come back to authenticity,
mm,
come back to that life force energy and feel that in other people.
Yeah.
It's, your unique energy is just you. People can do the same things. We're talking about, other people doing summits or books or oracles, but it's never going to be the same as like how we do it, or your book is just your book, that's going to have a unique frequency of its own. Your blood, sweat, and tears went into that.
Literally.
And so it's like knowing and feeling people's heart and their journey. And I think that's what we always come back to, that
mm,
authenticity, the storytelling, having conversations like this where we get to see this side of Marissa, you know, and it's beautiful, it's raw, it's real, and it's like people resonate. You resonate, you're like, I get that. I've been sick like that before too, you know. And we need more of that in the world, I
mm.
feel.
Totally. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know, Marissa, you've got your own talk
Set that
show,
intention.
podcast. Yeah. I know I've been on a guest on there for you. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I know, you've got this amazing show and interview style as well that's just purely you. When's that coming out? I'm excited to find out more.
Do you know, I'd love to say I've got a launch date, but I don't know because I wanted to launch it in April. It will be launching in June comfortably. It will be launching in June, TBA on the day. But I've got heaps of content already filmed for it. I've got so many amazing people on there, like from all walks of life, and just doing like truly amazing, beautiful work. So I'm really excited to get them out there and share that. So that podcast will be coming first, and then a TV show will be coming out. Probably, I would comfortably say around July. I'll start filming for that next month, and then my book will be out in August. So I probably really shouldn't complain about having a rest now in May, because I feel like from June things are going to be like ramping up again. So yeah, and I'll be back doing a couple of events as well, some more breathwork events, maybe a retreat in there somewhere this year. I don't know, maybe back to the States again. I don't know. I have no idea. I've got things in the pipeline, but it's quite fluid. They're coming. Who knows what date?
That's exciting.
Mm.
I feel like we're similar like that. We've got our dates for our summits, but we have other things that that have just popped up as well. Like, oh, cool, we've got 2 events next month that have been in the pipe work, so now they're like coming up into fruition. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing. And I think having that clarity to plan, the intention, but then also giving the time for it to come in to fruition is where that feminine
Mm.
flow comes in. Are there any final cards, Flea? I can see you looking down. Are there any other pieces of wisdom with the oracle
I
again?
had a lot of the same ones from this morning, so it was a lot about that, choosing wisely, which is that thinking with the heart and not with, the mind, so switching it where you're feeling with the mind instead of the heart. And, yeah, so that one was in there as well. We've already talked about being trapped in the fears and trapped in the sand or trapped in our in our bog. What was the other one there? It's about birthing new things, and I feel that that's what this conversation was about, is really tapping into the fertility of, like, when we are feeling this way and knowing now that, okay, intention is everything. How do we create those new ways intentionally? How do we birth into our reality where we're not, abandoning ourselves and our health in order to get this flow? Because the dream is the same at the end. We all want to live in this beautiful new earth, new world where these systems are not toxic, where we get to enjoy life and do the things that we're meant to do. So
Yeah.
there obviously has to be some type of collaboration or other way to make that work. We don't have to keep living in the fear of, the society that we've known in the past, because
Yep.
that is in the past, and right now in the future is where we get to change it.
Yep. Love that.
I think that's a really beautiful way to end. Thank you,
Yep.
Flea. And Marissa, if people are listening
Mm,
in, how can they come and find you and connect with you?
birth the new ways.
All of the socials just under my name, Marissa Warren. I'm probably more active on Instagram. My website, I've got a free audio you can download off there. I've got a free program that you can access through there as well, and my monthly program. And I'm going to be updating my website as well with a few new things coming through. So yeah, check out my website and Instagram. But yeah, they're probably the 2 places that I'm most active on.
Yeah, beautiful. And if people want to,
Website is just your name.
Yes, just my name, just Marissa Warren.
I'll put up there. Amazing. And I know we are going to be seeing Marissa at our next our next circle. We're talking about retreats and circles. And any locals listening in, beautiful Liberty Wellness, Women's Wellness Centre in Greater Springfield with Emma Atherton. Flea and I are hosting just a beautiful hour of connection, a little bit of breath work, and some beautiful sound healing. Marissa's going to come and join us, and then we'll have dinner afterwards. So it'll be
Yes.
beautiful. And I know she's doing some more amazing things around Brisbane, Ipswich as well. So it'll be awesome to, see what other beautiful collaborations we have with her. And she's probably going to be a speaker at our next event as well.
I will, for sure.
Amazing. And our next event, Flea, Turnkey Transformation. Do you want to let people know about that one if they're listening in and they're stuck with us?
Yeah. So basically, a lot of what we've been talking about, that beautiful energy work, that spiritual awakening, diving deep into past lives, history, ancient traditions, all of the woo-woo. It is in expansion. So, set your sights to be amazed. This is from the 10th to the 14th of August. So there are going to be many global speakers that are just sharing their experiences of all the woo-woo.
Yay. So exciting.
Amazing.
I love that. I know Marissa and I the other night when we caught up, we were talking about this, like the deep transformative work and, the wings opening up and these memories. And, this is, and we're still very academic full, very integral to the work we do. And we can merge these worlds because it is merging. So
It is.
let's be brave and speak about them more. So,
Love
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
exciting. Well, thank you
Thanks,
so much for
Jenny.
your time, and we will see you soon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.